Right, Nerd News Network.
Now for more ranting.
Oh, for fuck's sake! I've just seen what the first topic is.
Oh, it's been a week of the news. Let's be honest.
We're not going to say too much on this first one because there is not enough information right now. And the last thing we're going to do is make snap judgments when we know there is more information waiting to come to light.
Yeah.
Beau Demayo was the head writer of season 1 and 2 of X-Men 97. He was let go by Disney a week before the release of X-Men 97. And then subsequently in June, he had his credit for season 2 stripped away.
Yep.
Some information has come to light this week regarding this situation. It is very messy. It's not very clear. Disney are alleging that he was fired for inappropriate behaviour with colleagues. And there are allegations that he sent explicit and unrequested sexual images of himself and potentially groped members of staff. He's saying this is all a lie, and that he has the evidence to back it up, and that in the coming weeks, in a proper legal setting, that information will come to light. That is all we know right now. There is lots of back and
Lawyer
forth.
speak.
Yes, it's always difficult to know what's right here. I never find myself rooting for or against a corporation, for a corporation or against individuals, but there's no real evidence he's provided that would suggest that there's no truth at all to what they're saying, which is always a little bit concerning at this point. He said there is information, but we don't have it yet.
Yeah, it's tough because after the first statements from him, it then became his lawyer making statements.
Yes.
And anyone with their right mind know lawyers are particular about every single word in a statement. So then it's very hard to understand what they're actually like misrepresenting or weaving around from both sides. So yeah, until there's more information, it's impossible to know who is in the right and who's in the wrong.
Yes. All we can hope is that the truth comes to light and we know what happened.
Yeah.
And that is not because I particularly care, but it stops there being any confusion or debate online which could segregate a community.
Yeah, and it's also for fans of who seemingly are fans of a writer or a fan of a show, it's unfair on them if they're supporting someone to then not get if there's information being withheld that would actually be like, oh, you shouldn't, like they did something that they're not happy with. So
yes. Next up, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow is due to start filming in January 2025.
Yes.
Whoop whoop.
That film is not out till middle of 2026.
So yeah, take about 3-4 months to film it. Give the VFX artists a year to work on it.
Yep. Once again, James Gunn standing by his statement of why, like, he gives VFX time so much time.
Yeah.
Because he knows they need that time to do the best work.
Exactly. Hilarious bit of news here. A federal judge has blocked a plan for Disney, Warner Brothers Discovery, and Fox, who were proposing a joint streaming service. I don't know what you're thinking. That's 3 companies. Why couldn't they do that? Who cares? Well, Fox and Disney are one company.
Yeah.
And Disney own ESPN, which means that is Fox and ESPN, which are the 2 biggest sports providers, already owned by one company, essentially. And then they wanted to get Warner Brothers, who own, I believe, the other main one in ABC. It would have been a complete monopoly. That had to be vetoed. It is actually terrifying how much media is owned by like 6 companies.
Mega corporations.
Every day, Johnny Silverhand makes better and better points. I'm not going to nuke a corporate building. I just want to put that out there.
But he is going to start a band.
Yeah, I've just been put on so many lists. Adria Arjona has claimed that Andor season 2 is better than season 1.
And that the writing is just incredible.
I really struggle to believe this.
I
Because I
don't.
genuinely think Andor season 1 is some of the greatest television.
Knowing that where we are going to reach with Rogue One, and like some of the monologues we got in season 1, I can already see some of the monologues are just going to be even better as we lead up to these like pivotal moments in the story. Like I can already, like, there's going to be some just incredible moments of acting. I can see it now.
Oh, it's going to be the peak of the peak. In some go woke, go broke news. If that's taken out of context, do you know what the problem is? I know I'm so like
it's gonna be like
left wing and pro things that I make these jokes forgetting that out of context they would sound terrible.
Here's another clip.
When you look like this.
It's gonna be like that clip of you talking about Kamiko, the female.
Yeah, it's terrible. I believe in equality, people. It was just a joke. I'm angry at the world. Kahhori, the original Native American character from What If Season 2, is getting her own comic, which is incredible good news. Yeah. And I believe that makes her the first Marvel character to go from screen to page in their own title. Coulson did it as a secondary character in comics because he was originally made for Avengers, or for the MCU. But I believe she is the first character to be a titular character.
Yeah.
As a result of a TV appearance, I think it's really cool. She's a really cool character.
Yeah, I mean,
and more diversity.
Back in What If, we both really loved that episode and thought it was really cool to get like a brand new character in that. Mm-hmm. I think even back then we were like, oh, it'd be cool if this eventually like she gets her own comic or something. So for them to like fully go in on that is very cool.
Yes, absolutely. Sony are not expected to renew their contract with Lord and Miller, the duo behind Across the Spider-Verse and Into the Spider-Verse. Now, on the surface, this looks like a shit decision. Dig a bit deeper. Lord and Miller are kind of scumbags.
Okay.
They crunched people very hard at the end of Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
And were making changes to the final cut like 2 weeks out.
Yeah.
And they were like on the worst ever pre any kind of union game developer crunch schedules. And they also promised Beyond the Spider-Verse when they knew they couldn't meet that expectation. So I get why Sony might not want to work with them.
Yeah,
I also don't think they did anything no one else could do.
But isn't the reason that rumored reason is because there's been disagreements on budget for Spider-Man Noir?
Yes. But at the same time, Spider-Man Noir should be a dirt cheap project, in my opinion. And the rumored project that has been greenlit is like 40 million for the season.
Yeah, and then then also you've got Sony saying that they're claiming that Sony said they were going to reboot Spider-Man for TV.
Yes, and that never happened.
And was never going to happen, let's be real. Yeah, I think it's a case of, once again, Sony mispromising.
Yes.
Being very vague in some of their positioning on some of these projects for both actors, actresses, writers, directors. But then also the punch you make of like, they did, the way they ran the projects around Spider-Verse and stuff was not great for the artists. We want to see artists
treated, yeah. We want to see artists treated like
Which is why those studios should be given the Batman Beyond project and go over with James Gunn.
Yeah. Moon Knight 2 or Moon Knight Season 2 is rumored to be in development.
Sorry, what show is that?
And earlier today, I saw rumors that Miss Marvel Season 2 is also in development. In a time when I was getting worried that Disney Plus didn't want to greenlight anything, these are two shows I was really worried about, especially post-Eternal news.
I'm glad that they're getting...
I'm gonna say it. Ms. Marvel
Gonna-
didn't get a lot of good reception. It got a lot of mixed reception.
Hmm.
I love Aman Vellani. I love Kamala Khan. I will watch 100 seasons of that show and 12 movies. Just keep making it.
Yeah, she's great.
She's
And she
amazing.
loves the
Like,
character, and she loves Marvel. Like,
if there was a male actor, a white male actor behaving the same way for their character that she does for Miss Marvel, comic book Twitter would be dying for that person.
well, let's just be real. Look at how people are like, oh my god, RDJ is Tony Stark.
Yes.
Like,
She actually is Kamala Khan.
yeah.
Like she got the opportunity because of her cosplay and her love for the character as a fan. Then they brought her in and she loved it. Samuel L. Jackson, I believe, is currently the most profitable actor ever. Him and Scarlett Johansson jump backwards and forwards a lot. Whoever released a movie more recently is in first. Said, I loved working with her. She was great. She could answer all our questions. Brie Larson, someone who's had to deal with an ungodly amount of shit from Marvel fans for no reason, who also is a diamond and should be loved. Loved them on because she was great. If we didn't know what to do, she'd really help us because she understands it all so much. She's literally the person that every fandom wishes they had. Give her everything. Give her the world.
Well, it's also like the fans, like the comic book fans, complain when they're doing something wrong in these films. She's the one in there being like, "No, this is how it goes in the comics." Like this, she's helping correct those things.
She does what Henry Cavill gets so much praise for.
Yeah.
And she does it in a more respectful way most of the time.
Here's my slight gripe with the fact that this is another going back to the issues with Disney and how they're doing the shows. The fact we've had to wait so long for Moon Knight 2. Like,
Yeah.
I get that these Marvel projects are on like big cycles for like,
and there's so many characters.
yeah, and there's so much going. Like,
prioritize?
I get that, but then when you're trying to do TV shows, and if you want someone like if you're looking at this from the outside, and it's like, oh, Moon Knight, and you just like you watch that, and you're like, oh, this is sick. When do I get season 2? And it's like, oh, you've got to wait like 3 years or whatever it's been. Like, oh, like, can you imagine if we had to wait 3 years between seasons of The Bear? We'd be screaming. So I'm glad that it's being rumored that it's back in development, and hopefully all goes ahead smoothly. I'll be very excited for it, but I just wish we'd got it sooner.
It was confirmed on the official Marvel podcast, our little brother of a podcast, that Amadeus Cho and Pearl Pangan will be in Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. So for those who are not aware, Amadeus Cho, I'm just going to make sure that he is... He is a Hulk.
Okay, that's what I got from the thing you sent me.
Yeah, he's a Korean-American-born Hulk. I believe I've done a character profile on him before. I might have to check that, though. I might have planned on doing it and then not. And then Pearl Pagan is the superhero known as Wave.
Okay.
Very cool character based on what I've seen of her. I don't know too much about her. I assume she's connected to the Atlanteans in some way or another. All I know for a fact is that Jeff the Land Shark has been used with her very recently in Marvel Snap as a variant for one of her cards.
And everyone loves Jeff the Land Shark.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think it'll be cool.
I mean, yeah, it's cool that they're going to go and use some a bit more obscure
legacy characters, new characters. Give it to me. Spider-Man cartoon is a great way to get people to pay attention to niche characters.
Also helps set up niche characters so that they could maybe use some of them in the MCU because they have to get away from all these ones Sony are touching.
Yes, exactly. This is a bit of a weird one. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I don't think it's perfect, but I think it's a start. Rotten Tomatoes have announced a new system.
They have.
So they have, for those who aren't aware, because I feel like a lot of people aren't, Rotten Tomatoes is a reviewing system for film and TV that allows people to review the things out of 5 stars.
Yep.
if the general so when you see like an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes, that means 80% of the people who reviewed it better than 3 stars.
Yes.
So that doesn't mean it's better than something that was like 75%, because that 75% might have been that 75% of people said it was a 5-star film, and 25% said it was a 3-star film, and the 80% could have been 80% said 4-star,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? But previously, whether it's certified fresh was based just on the critic score.
Yes.
They've now added a new thing for the audience score, which is about whether it's hot or cold.
Yeah.
Or sorry, hot or stale.
Yeah, and it's verified users as well to try and obviously so you avoid the issue of like bot accounts.
The only real next step for Rotten Tomatoes in regard to the fan score is to verify the person's actually seen the thing, which is a problem, because you can earnestly have a verified account and then decide you want to review bomb something can do it. But I do think it's good because a big thing with Rotten Tomatoes, while it is a valid valid metric, it's only valid if you look at it outside of a bubble. Because if you just look at that score, it's not that good. You've got to look at it as well as other sources of information. But it's a useful source of information. Because there are some films that I will die on the hill of they are like phenomenal films that have really low critic scores, but have great audience scores. And vice versa. And as a general rule, the way I've always looked at it is low critic score used to be, and this is like early days of Marvel when critics hated Marvel, used to be what is like an arty film. If it was a high critic score, that I just use that as like, is it artsy, is it not? And then the fan score I viewed as how much fun is the film.
Yeah.
So if it's an artsy film that's fun, you get Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
If it's not that artsy a film that's fun, you get Avengers. If it's an artsy film that's not a lot of fun, you get Schrodinger's... no, not Schrodinger. Schindler's List.
Schrodinger's cat.
And if it's not an artsy film that's not fun, you get Madam Web. Yeah?
Yeah.
That's literally how I've always viewed it. I'm like, bigger number, closer it is to fun, not fun. Or artsy, not artsy. That's always the way I've done it. So I like that they're now putting a hot or not on it kind of vibe. Because what you can get is you get like a fresh, hot film. And I'm like, cool, that's fresh, that's hot. That is a must-see, clearly.
It helps.
It's good.
Because you could get like a bunch of critics be like, oh, this is really high. And it's saying it's like, oh, fresh film. And it's like, but then it might not be for a mass audience sort of appeal. Whereas now you're going to get like Deadpool, I presume, has a hot stamp on it with how it's...
I would assume so.
But then you'll get, obviously, Madam Web will no doubt have a stale. It helps those people that maybe aren't in the realms of like our podcast and that sort of stuff where they get content made reviewing stuff or giving opinions on things. Maybe they're just like, oh, these films are out, let's go to Rotten Tomatoes and just get a glance. Because I know people do, before they even go see a film, they go to that and decide off that if they're going to go watch it. So, yeah, I mean, more detail is always good.
Exactly. More comic book news than normal this week, but fuck it. An all-new Venom comic's been launched or announced. It's called All New Venom. And the reason Hori was aware of this before today was because I sent him the announcement tweet, and I believe my direct quote was, "This suit fucks."
Do you know what's funny?
Or the yellow fucks.
I saw it about 5 minutes before you sent it to me, because obviously I follow the same Twitter account.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that looks cool. Scrolled on. Then next second you send it to me like, oh my god, this fucks. And I'm like, oh, yeah.
So there is a Venom War event going on right now.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure what the story of that is. Don't quote me. Venom's not been a bad guy for a long time. He's an anti-hero. It looks like, as a result of that, there is going to be a new host for Venom.
Ooh.
People are thinking it might be Luke Cage.
Ooh.
Because Luke Cage's colour is yellow.
Yeah.
And the new Venom design, everything that would traditionally be white is goldy yellow.
Yeah.
It's a street level Venom story. It's interesting. I'm probably not going to read it. I'm collecting far too many comic books as it is right now,
You're struggling
and
to keep up.
I'm fighting the urge to not add more to my monthly subscription as it is. The Ultimate Universe is fucking amazing. So it's cool. If you're a Venom fan, it might be worth checking out. Or if you just want to get into comics and you like the idea of a Venom comic, this might be a really good hopping on point.
True.
Going back to what we've previously discussed earlier on the podcast, but if you're only watching this segment, Acolyte Season 2 is not happening. All merch has been pulled, and fans fear the show may also be about to be pulled from Disney Plus and become lost media like Willow, a previous Disney Plus original.
Trying not to get too much into the same stuff we discussed earlier, but like,
regardless of how we feel about the show being cancelled, the fear of it being lost media is genuinely heartbreaking.
Yeah, the idea that this will end up being just a entry onto the Star Wars wiki, but have a note of you can't watch this anymore is wild. I'm sure on the high seas there may be opportunities, but we don't know how to navigate those places.
No, and I am very tech illiterate,
and we don't recommend that you get a sailing degree. But yeah, I mean, yes, was the show the strongest Star Wars show ever? No. Does it deserve to be cancelled? No, it's had one season. I fear the bigger ramifications of this is we will never leave the Skywalker saga.
Yes.
And this now makes me very worried for the Dawn of the Jedi film that has been announced. Because when they go to that and we get to see the start of the Jedi, if fans react negatively to that film as well, because, oh, you've changed something in the legends, they will no doubt never touch anything outside of Skywalker again. And that is a very sad day for Star Wars.
Yeah, absolutely. It's as a Doctor Who fan, I am aware that despite a phenomenal effort in recent years because of the coming up of the 60th anniversary, a lot of Doctor Who was thought to be lost. Because when Doctor Who first started, they re-recorded over tapes.
Yeah, there wasn't this like...
Yeah, they didn't think about it.
They didn't think that people down the line would still be loving Doctor Who as much as they are and be like,
exactly,
this stuff would need to be kept.
And then in the 70s, there was a fire, a BBC storehouse of archives that destroyed a lot of it. Now, through a lot of hard work and a very large team at the BBC for basically the last 20 years, they've got together basically everything, and I think it's only like 5% of Doctor Who is lost now, which is still scarily high, but so much lower than it was at one point.
Yeah.
So being like, as a result of my love of Doctor Who, I'm so keenly aware of lost media and how scary it is. To see that a show made in 2024 could literally just be taken away, never to be seen again, is crazy. I'm going to say it. Yes, Disney own the IP. They do not own Star Wars. They don't own it. The fans do. It's the same with everything that is driven by fans and a fandom. They don't own it. Yeah, cool, they make the money from it. And they incur the cost of making it, and they hope to make a profit. Cool. It's owned by the fans. So, Disney consume it, worth dick all. Steal it. Pirate it. Save it. Keep it somewhere safe. And if there's anything you care about that is on a streaming platform, do the same thing. Piracy is not immoral when it comes to content that might get taken away at a moment's notice.
It's not stealing if no one owns it.
Exactly. If there is no way for me to purchase it, it's not stealing. It's the same with video games, it's the same with books, it's the same with TV. You've just got to protect what you care about.
I'm sure
media does matter.
I'm sure there is a collective out there that have actually got an absolute huge archive of everything protected.
The big problem with these kind of archives is they have to keep them really quiet so they don't get sued.
Yeah.
But as a result of that, no one knows where to find them. It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Fucking weird one.
In the wildest streaming news.
In a world where it feels like all streaming services are saying they can't make any money, they don't know why they invested in it, the quality's going through the floor, it's getting too expensive. Chick-fil-A, the chicken people in America, have announced that they are entering the streaming space with plans of making their own streaming service and making their own original shows.
It's partnered with somebody. I forget who it was.
But what?
The funniest. I
literally double checked to make sure it wasn't April 1st. It's August, and I checked to make sure it wasn't April 1st.
The funniest response to this I saw was, "Oh, does that mean the streaming site will be closed on Sundays?"
Because Chick-fil-A not open on Sundays.
Chick-fil-A is famously known for being closed on a Sunday. Like, that's just part of their thing. So everyone's like, "Oh, so you're gonna go to the website on a Sunday?" And it's like, you can't stream today. Sorry, come back on Monday.
It's just so weird, isn't it? Like, I'm losing my mind here. What do you mean? But yeah, it's funny.
Like, I get. Don't get me wrong. I get diversifying your business to withstand financial storms that we quite clearly as a world going through. Diversifying from chicken takeaway essentially to streaming service is quite the jump.
It is. It's not like you've learned anything from restaurant infrastructure that would help you, I think.
No, unless you're going to offer like free Chick-fil-A vouchers
no. Imagine they make it like a $20 a month subscription and you get 10% off at Chick-fil-A.
It wouldn't surprise. The only thought in my head is like, oh, people order food for while they watch films and stuff, and they're gonna do some weird combo like to try and get people buying more Chick-fil-A. I don't know. It's very weird. It also feels like it could be one of those things that they announce and then a year down the line, it's like, oh yeah, no, we shelved that idea.
Do you know what I also don't understand? To an extent.
Go on.
Anyone can kind of make a streaming service.
Yeah.
You just need to make a YouTube channel, get it monetized, set your membership price to whatever you want, and then just make content that is for members only.
Well, we talk about them enough. Look at Dropout. That was literally them going, we're just going to make a streaming, like, if you want to watch our high quality content, we're just going to make our own streaming site.
But like that like you can do that natively in YouTube. I'm sure there are logical reasons that you'd want your own back end and stuff. But at its core, that's the exact same thing.
At the end of the day, you just need the money to pay for the licensing for this content, and then you make that money back through subscription. It's just very weird.
Secret Level we discussed it in what's coming up for the rest of the year, so if you haven't watched that, go back and watch that. But new anthology series coming from the makers of Love, Death and Robots.
Yeah,
looks very cool. An
incredible series.
Yes.
I was telling you in the what's coming up this year, but they are the people that have created the show. As far as this is my memory, so take it with a pinch of salt. But as far as I'm aware,
very old.
The studio behind the idea of Love, Death and Robots and what kind of organized all that and made that show happen were a CGI studio, did a lot of video game cutscenes that we love. I'm pretty sure they did like Warhammer and stuff like that. So they know what they were doing. The idea that they would now do a game version of like Love, Death and Robots, I think is incredible. Some incredible IP names, such as Warhammer 40k. There's one I forgot earlier, but Pac-Man is in there. Which there's a clip of like a very golden metal ball that looks very aggressive. And I love the idea that some of these stories, they are not necessarily like a cutscene as if they were pulled from the games that we know. It is the IPs in a story based around that IP, whether it's the characters or whatnot.
they've got a good mix of established storytelling worlds
Hmm.
where there's quite a bit of lore already they get to play within. And then you've got stuff like Mega Man and Pac-Man, which are incredibly well known, but don't have a ton of lore, which means you can get a bit weird with it.
Do you know what's going to be cool for the Pac-Man one? If it's like some alien planet, essentially, and Pac-Man is just this metallic robot that just consumes everything on this planet, and the ghosts are like the actual native things. Like, what if they turn it into
people.
like Pac-Man is like an AI that's gone rogue, and it's like everyone is afraid of these things?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw that and I literally said we should probably watch that for the podcast.
Oh,
That looks fucking
yeah,
awesome.
it's gonna be really good, and it's out
It
on
might
Prime.
be, for things that aren't in our typical wheelhouse, it might be the quickest we've ever agreed that yes, that's going on the list.
I saw Warhammer 40k and I was like, I'm sold.
And in
Finally.
brilliant news,
There's still a lawsuit going on, but in
yes, yeah,
positive.
and funny for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Funny in very late stage capitalism. Funny.
Yeah.
Disney have backpedaled on trying to force the man who's suing them for the wrongful death of his wife into arbitration. So for those who missed it, a man signed up for Disney Plus in 2019.
Yeah.
In 2023 at Disney Springs, after being assured that there were no allergen contaminations, his wife died from an allergen contamination.
Anaphylactic shock.
Yes, which is terribly sad.
Yeah.
And it should never ever happen. Insane. So, rightfully so, he is suing them for wrongful death because they were assured it was perfectly safe.
Yep.
Disney tried to use the terms of service from when he used Disney Plus in 2019.
On a free trial.
To claim that he'd agreed to all lawsuits against Disney had to go through arbitration first, which they would then have used to bully him into a much lower settlement.
Yep.
And also, by the way, I think he's only asking for $500,000.
Yeah, I don't know the details of how much,
it's
but yeah.
nothing. And rightfully so. And in a rare internet W, everyone went, Disney, what the fuck are you doing? And for a week straight, like I've seen memes of people getting like an invite code to a free Disney Plus trial, going, "Oh my god, they're trying to kill my wife."
Yeah, well, this thing, the internet got wind of it, and then the internet does what the internet does, and actually, the fact that the internet memed the idea that Disney kills partners through Disney Plus, that meme was actually more damaging and louder to Disney than if like people were just like, this is wrong, because suddenly that's a public image being affected and they're like, oh shit. And thankfully they were smart enough and they've backed down.
Do you know what this is kind of the inverse of? Have you ever heard of the McDonald's hot coffee incident?
No.
Okay, so it's a very famous story. And the story goes, this idiot woman spilt a coffee on herself and then sued Disney because sued McDonald's because it was hot.
I think I do recall hearing about this.
So for years you've had people going, "Oh, you spilt a hot coffee, you're an idiot, and you sued and got money for it. You're so dumb. You got $1 million because you don't understand coffee's hot."
Yeah.
And that actually wasn't the case at all. That was the propaganda that McDonald's put out. The real case was a grandson had taken his very elderly grandmother to McDonald's for a coffee. He got her a coffee. She did spill it on herself, and it left third-degree burns. They were suing for the medical expenses. McDonald's tried to fight it back by claiming that she was an idiot, essentially. And independent adjudicators went in. They found out that McDonald's had been warned 4 times before they were serving coffee illegally hot because their machine was set too high. And it had happened again. So then they went, fuck that, you're getting more than what you asked for, you're getting $1 million. But then McDonald's spent a load of money trying to put stories in the press about how an idiot who doesn't know coffee's hot sued them for $1 million. When in actual fact, they just wanted like $100,000 for the medical expenses of the horrific injuries received.
Money on PR can do.
Yeah, and like I say, this is almost the inverse of that because the person was just trying to sue for wrongful death, but Disney, by trying to get around it,
Yeah.
have invertedly created this idea that signing up for Disney Plus lets Disney kill your loved ones.
Yeah. Which is not an image Disney wants at
Which
all.
is why they've backpedaled so quickly, and like, did you see their one second? Let me find their press release. Disney Plus press release.
The only kind of on the Disney side of things, because they will be using a third-party law firm or whatever, I feel bad if this was, like I was saying the other week, like, there's a theory that this probably was some intern came up with the idea because they read something. They're like, oh my God, look, this is a great idea. I just hope that whoever found that initial like case and was like, oh, we could use this as an option, like this worked in this case, and they ran with it, not really realizing what they were like putting in motion. Hopefully they haven't been overly punished for that, because at the end of the day, they were just doing their job. But
I can't find the article, but basically in their official press release, they said we care about life above all else. We weren't trying to make an
course.
already difficult situation more difficult. We always
Oh,
strive to do the
really?
right thing. And it's
How-
like, why are you trying to act like you realised you made a mistake of your own accord? Like the internet
Well, that's
didn't
just a PR
collectively go,
firm.
you dumb fucks.
That's written
Yeah.
by a PR firm, and
It's crazy. But yeah, hold corporations accountable. We have so much power as a collective when we work together. It's actually insane. The problem is they've done such a good job of having us fighting over stupid bullshit that they get away with stuff that actually matters far too often.